I'm back, y'all. So I went through the questions now that the majority of you have really done all of your work from the namesake questions. And I have made some notes in the Google Classroom. So you'll be able to refer back to it at any time and be able to see what mistakes we made and learn from them. So that it's almost like having a really organized binder in Google Classroom. So the most highly missed questions were number 1, number 4, and number 5. So I went through and looked at, and most of you guys made the same mistakes, which is totally fine. I completely get it. I was almost expecting them, which is why I address them in my videos. So we can kind of just keep practicing and make sure we at least don't make the same ones in the future. So the first thing that I want to remind you about is Chris, because many of you, if you were able to access the PDF, you made good annotations, but some of us did not do it in our heads, and that's going to be something we fix going forward because we're going to use a new platform that's going to help you annotate the questions and see everything you need. It'll also be right there on the text so that if you had a hard time going back to the text, it'll be right there. You shouldn't have as many problems. Okay, so in Chris, remember, you guys need to highlight or at least read the important words in the question, because that was one of the greatest reasons why you guys missed a question if you missed it, if you made an actual attempt. So in number 1, so what I'm going to do is I have the questions pulled up, and I know that they have different numbers, but that's okay. I have the questions pulled up, and I'm going to highlight the keywords here and then put them over here so that we'll be able to keep a track of what we're doing. All right, so number 1 asks us to read this sentence right here. In your question, it literally said paragraph 3, what does it imply about Mrs. Lapidus? So I would have highlighted, make sure I can highlight, paragraph 3, the word imply, and Mrs. Lapidus. And remember, so over here, I'm looking at imply about Mrs. Lapidus. So the word imply right here, guys, that's a big one. That means suggest, which means it's not literally what it says in the text. So many of you picked this option. You picked wants to reassure, but that is not what we want. That's not what we want because it's literally in the text. It literally says she wants to reassure him. She reassures him. She's trying to make sure he feels comfortable. But that's not why she does anything, and that isn't something that we learn about her character. So the correct answer, I'll actually make it yellow. The correct answer was this one has made assumptions about them because they're Indian American. So the misconception was about imply, and y'all picked the text evidence answer, not inference. So I'm actually going to give a shout out to Evelyn Nino in 4th period, because in her explanation, she said that Mrs. Lapidus assumed that because they are also Indian, they would also know the 2 older kids, which isn't a fair assumption, and that means she is just making a generalization about all people from India, that if you come to another country, you must know someone from India, but it's a huge country, and that's crazy. And Evelyn actually included an example, which is why this explanation is so great. She said it's just like because she's American, she kind of, in a way, expected to know all Americans. We don't know everyone in this entire country. That would be crazy. If you're from Mexico or El Salvador or Guatemala, you don't know everyone in that country just because you're from there. And it would be actually unfair for me to assume that about you just because that's the way you look. And in fact, she didn't even ask them if they were Indian, so what if they weren't? So we missed an inference there. So I'm going to say pay attention to keywords and making an inference not just picking the obvious answer. All right, and great job, Evelyn, on that. Lots of you had good explanations, but I thought hers was really good because of that example. All right, number 4. Number 4 was that weird figurative language one. All right, so let's highlight our keywords here. Our keywords were this sentence, first of all, and it says figurative language, and they do it to reveal something. So remember, reveal means that you are finding something that wasn't obvious like immediately. So most of you identified correctly that the figurative language was forever hovering. So you were supposed to look at forever hovering, figurative language reveals, right? Because a letter cannot literally hover and float above India and America. That doesn't make sense. Something is literally happening. So what is literally happening is that the letter didn't make it. It was lost. All right. Many of you picked this option. The letter had expressed the last wish. And again, that's something it literally said. It literally said right here, it contained the good name she'd chosen for Gogol. So that's not a revelation. It's not something new. It was right there in the text. So you guys were supposed to make an inference about something else. Did not choose something new focused on evidence. And again, this is actually really good because that means you guys are looking at the text and you are trying to figure out what it says. We're just not going to that deeper level, which we've talked about all year. It's just a really hard skill we have to practice. Make an inference and think about what is actually happening. All right. And I didn't pick an exemplar for that one because the question asked you to identify the figurative language. And so that's how I know that most of you did choose forever hovering, which is why that's so important for you guys to put in the open-ended answers so that I know where to start. So I'm really excited that you guys did identify that figurative language. We just have to do the next step now. All right, and lastly, number 5. Oh my gosh, guys, the biggest reason why you guys did not get this question right if you got it wrong is because you did not use Chris. So I'm going to highlight in green. You are supposed to look at this part and only this part, the description of the setting in the last paragraph and what is Gogol going to do in the future based on the setting. So if I go up to the setting. So I'm going to write the keywords down so I don't forget. Description of setting in the last paragraph. What do you learn about Gogol? So I'm going to go up to the last paragraph here. And I already have it highlighted because I did my work while I was reading. So the classroom has a carpeted hallway. There's a woman with hair in 2 braids. She's wearing overalls. Everyone has nicknames, and it's nothing like his parents' school with polished black shoes and fountain pens. And they only have one official ritual, which means it's kind of casual, and they just drink punch and eat cookies. Looking at my highlighted moments. So I'm going to go back down here. Most of you guys chose, because you were focusing on the rest of the story, he's going to have trouble fitting in with his new classmates, or you said he was going to change his mind because of that moment where she says that he's now going to go by Gogol. So we have a couple misconceptions here. The first one is you guys did not focus on last paragraph. Or we didn't focus on the setting. Also, I need you guys to remember this entire story, Gogol was like, I want to be called Gogol. I don't like that other name. he was going to go along with it, but in his mind he never preferred the other name. So the fact that he is now going by Gogol is not him changing his mind, it's people just allowing him to do what he wants. All right? He never changed his mind. They just listened to him at the end. So the only people who changed their mind would be the principal or his parents. It was never Gogol. And I know these people have weird names, so it's hard to keep track of who they are and what they're doing. It's just look for the capital letters and we'll figure it out. All right. So the correct answer was he's going to become comfortable with the routines of kindergarten, because this is it's not an intimidating setting. The woman looked very professional. She's in her suit, and his parents had been like, oh, you have to have this special name. So that's why he was shy. He was like, oh no, it's not gonna work, and he's freaking out. But then he goes into the room and he's like, oh, everyone has a different name. This is a pretty chill classroom. And I think, let's see, Jackie from my 4th period had a great explanation for this answer. Right here. She said, it's because he will be known and be comfortable as Gogol, and it's nothing like what his parents said about kindergarten. So that's why he's going to be more comfortable, because it's nothing like he expected, and it's better. So for next time, let's see, what should we remember? We should remember to focus on the specific point in the text and make connections. All right, so remember most of these questions were about characterization. So characterization, I'm just going to leave these in the notes. We want to look at the T's, the thoughts, the effect on others, the actions, and the spoken words. So just remember that as you make your inferences, what is the next step after you look at each of those steps? Before I leave, I just want to give a special shout out to Eileen, because as I was reading her explanations in each question, I recognized many of the notes that I had said myself in the video I created for you guys. So I could really see that she was making connections between my advice and my teaching and the lesson. So I just really appreciate that. Everybody else who watched those videos, please, please, please know how helpful they were. I've heard that they were helpful. So just make use of them, all right? And I hope that you guys use these notes for your next questions. Have a great weekend, and I will talk to you guys again on Monday.